The afternoon sun filtered through the curtains of my bedroom as I sat in my favorite armchair, pretending to stare blankly at the wall. My daughter-in-law, Victoria, stood in the doorway, watching me with that practiced look of concern she'd perfected over the past 6 months. "Mom Ruth, do you remember what day it is?" I let my eyes wander slowly toward her, then away, as if I couldn't quite focus. Inside, my mind was sharp as ever, cataloging every word, every expression. The small voice recorder in my cardigan pocket was running. It had been running for 147 days. "Tuesday?" I mumbled, though I knew perfectly well it was Thursday. I knew the date, the time, and exactly how much money my son Marcus and his wife had transferred from my accounts in the last 5 months. $312,000, to be exact. "Close, Mom," Victoria said with exaggerated patience. "It's Thursday. Remember? Your doctor's appointment?" There was no doctor's appointment. But I would play along. I always played along. "Oh," I said softly, letting my hands tremble slightly as I reached for my teacup. "Yes, the doctor." Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw her expression shift just for a moment from false concern to cold calculation. Then she pasted the smile back on. "Marcus will take you. I have errands to run." After she left, I sat perfectly still for exactly 3 minutes. Then I reached into my pocket and pressed stop on the recorder. I stood, walked to my closet, and moved aside the loose floorboard where I kept my real files. Not the ones in my desk that they'd already found and altered. The real ones. Inside the hidden compartment, 17 voice recordings, 12 months of bank statements I'd secretly printed at the library, screenshots from their text messages I'd photographed when they left their phones unattended, and a detailed timeline I'd been constructing. Every lie, every manipulation, every time they'd told their friends how difficult it was caring for me, how I wasn't the same person anymore. I wasn't the same person. I was smarter, more careful, and I was building a case. My name is Ruth Calloway. I'm 68 years old. I taught high school mathematics for 42 years before retiring. My husband Daniel died 3 years ago from a heart attack, sudden and devastating. Marcus is our only child. I raised him to be honest, compassionate, successful. Somewhere along the way, or maybe after he married Victoria, those values disappeared. It started small, like these things always do. 6 months after Daniel's death, Marcus suggested I sell the house. "It's too big for you, Mom. Too many stairs. What if you fall?" Victoria nodded along, her hand on his arm, her eyes on the property value. Our house in Riverside, Connecticut wasn't just a house. Daniel built the addition himself. We'd hosted Marcus's childhood birthdays in that backyard. It was worth about $2 million. And they knew it. I said no. I wasn't ready. Then the concerned look started. "Mom, you left the stove on yesterday." "I hadn't." "Mom, you asked me the same question 3 times. "I hadn't." "Mom, you forgot we were coming for dinner." I had forgotten nothing. But they were building a narrative. 2 months later, Marcus brought up the idea of him managing my finances. "Just temporarily, Mom. Just until you feel more settled." I should have refused. But I was curious. I wanted to see how far they would go. So I agreed. And I watched as my capable, honors student son began transferring money from my accounts to his. Slowly at first. 5,000 here, 10,000 there, then larger amounts. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought I was already slipping away. But I noticed everything. I noticed how Victoria's designer handbag collection grew. How Marcus suddenly paid off his Tesla. How they whispered about the retirement community with private rooms and memory care units. How they'd already contacted a real estate agent about my house. 4 months ago, I made a decision. I would give them exactly what they wanted. A mother losing her grip on reality. I would shuffle instead of walk. I would forget names, dates, conversations. I would stare vacantly and ask the same questions twice. And while they thought I was fading away, I would be gathering everything I needed to destroy their plans. I became an actress in my own life. The performance had to be perfect, too obvious, and they'd suspect, too subtle, and they wouldn't accelerate their timeline. I needed them confident enough to make mistakes, comfortable enough to talk freely around me, treating me like furniture that couldn't comprehend or remember. So I forgot my neighbor's name, Alice, whom I'd known for 18 years. I put the milk in the pantry. I asked Marcus 3 times when his birthday was. I watched their excitement grow with each incident. Maybe we should speed things up, I heard Victoria whisper to Marcus one evening. They thought I was napping. My bedroom door was cracked open. My phone was recording. The evaluation is in 2 weeks, Marcus replied. Dr. Morrison will assess her. He's sympathetic to our situation. You mean you paid him? I made a donation to his research foundation. There's a difference. Whatever helps you sleep at night, honey. Once she's declared incompetent, you'll have full power of attorney. Then we can sell the house and move her to Green Meadows. They have an opening. She won't like it. She won't remember to not like it. They laughed. My son and his wife laughed about erasing me, warehousing me, stealing my life's work. I remembered every word. The next day, I went to the library, my supposed errands, and met with Catherine Jo, the attorney I'd secretly retained. Catherine was 53, sharp as broken glass, and had no patience for elder abuse. I'd found her through my former teaching colleague whose mother had faced a similar situation. Mrs. Calloway, Catherine said as I sat across from her in the small conference room, you're certain you want to continue this charade? We have enough evidence now. We could stop this. Not yet, I told her. I need them to go all the way. I need them to show exactly who they've become. Catherine pulled out a folder, my counterfile. Financial forensics show systematic theft. The voice recordings establish intent and conspiracy. The falsified medical concerns could constitute fraud. But if they get you declared incompetent before we act, they won't. You're playing a dangerous game. I taught probability and risk assessment for 4 decades, Catherine. I know exactly what I'm doing. She smiled slightly. The evaluation is in 12 days. Dr. Morrison is expensive but not particularly bright. If he's been paid off, he'll go through the motions but won't do a thorough exam. That's our window. What's the plan? During the evaluation, you'll perform exactly as you have been confused, disoriented. Let him see what they want him to see. But I'll have an independent neurologist there, observing, and afterward, we'll have Marcus and Victoria arrested. Arrested? Financial elder abuse is a felony in Connecticut. With your evidence and the attempted fraud regarding your mental capacity, we can pursue criminal charges. The recordings give us conspiracy. This isn't just civil court, Ruth. This is serious. Something settled in my chest. Not satisfaction, not yet, but certainty, good. The next 10 days were theater. I shuffled more, forgot more. One evening, I asked Marcus who the woman was in the photo on the mantel. It was his wedding photo. His face lit up with barely concealed joy. That's Victoria, Mom, my wife, your daughter-in-law. Oh, I said softly. She's very pretty. When did you get married? 7 years ago, Mom. That's nice. Will you bring her by sometime? I'd love to meet her. Victoria was in the room. She squeezed Marcus's hand. They thought they'd won. That night, I added another entry to my timeline. Pretended not to recognize Victoria. They believe the deterioration is accelerating. Victoria mentioned expediting Green Meadows admission on phone call with facility recording attached. The morning of the evaluation, I dressed slowly in comfortable clothes, a soft blue cardigan and gray slacks. I didn't style my hair as carefully as usual. I wanted to look diminished, fragile, forgettable. Marcus drove me to the medical building. Victoria came too. For support, she said. For control, I knew. Dr. Morrison's office was sterile and cold. He was in his 60s, with thinning hair and an expensive watch. He smiled at me with practiced sympathy that didn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Calloway, I'm Dr. Morrison. I'm going to ask you some questions today. Is that all right? I nodded vaguely. Can you tell me what year it is? 2000. I paused, letting confusion cloud my face. 12? It was 2024. He made a note. Marcus and Victoria sat behind me. I could feel their anticipation. What month are we in? June? Or May? It was October. Another note. Who is the current president? I pretended to think. Bush? Marcus shifted in his seat. Victoria's hand found his. This was it. This was the performance they'd paid for. Can you count backward from 100 by sevens? I made it to 93 before stopping, staring at the wall. I can't remember what comes next. Dr. Morrison nodded. That's all right, Mrs. Calloway. Let's try something else. Can you draw a clock showing 3:15? I drew a circle, put some numbers in approximately the right spots. Drew the hands pointing in vaguely the correct direction but not quite right. It was harder than it should have been to make my drawing look wrong. My mathematical brain rebelled against imprecision. Who are these people with you today? Dr. Morrison gestured to Marcus and Victoria. I looked at them. Marcus, my son. My baby boy who I'd rocked to sleep, taught to read, helped through geometry homework. Victoria, who'd seemed so lovely when they first dated, so caring. They're nice people, I said softly. They help me sometimes. Do you know their names? The man, Michael or Matthew? Marcus. Mom, my son said quietly, but his voice held triumph, not pain. And the woman? I don't. I'm sorry, I don't remember. Dr. Morrison made several more notes. Then he said, I'd like to speak with your son privately, Mrs. Calloway. Would that be all right? I nodded. A nurse led me to a waiting room. But what they didn't know was that Catherine had arranged for me to be in a specific room, one where I could hear their conversation through a vent that connected to Dr. Morrison's office. And my phone was recording again. I'm afraid the cognitive decline is quite advanced, Dr. Morrison said. His voice carried clearly. Based on this evaluation, I would recommend a full neuropsychological workup, but preliminarily, I see clear signs of dementia. I'll prepare my recommendation for cognitive guardianship. How long before we can move her to a facility? Victoria asked. Not how can we help her, not what's the prognosis, just when can we move her? With my report and your petition to the court, you could have guardianship within a month. Then you'd have full authority over her medical and financial decisions. And the house? Marcus asked. Once you have guardianship, you can sell her assets to pay for her care. That's standard. Thank you, doctor, Victoria said. Your donation will be processed this week. I appreciate your support of my research. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. They thought I was already gone. The nurse came to get me. As we walked back, I saw Catherine standing in the hallway, partially hidden behind a pillar. She gave me the slightest nod. Everything was recorded. Everything was documented. Dr. Morrison came out, shook Marcus's hand. I'll have my report ready in 3 days. I'm sorry you're going through this. Thank you for seeing her on short notice, Marcus said. On the drive home, they were giddy, practically vibrating with excitement. They thought they were careful, speaking in code, but I understood every word. So it went well? Victoria asked. Better than expected, Marcus replied. Morrison says we can proceed. Did you know that Green Meadows has a cancellation? We could move her next month. That fast? Why wait? The house will sell quickly. Spring market, we could probably get $2.2 million. And her other accounts? Once you're guardian, everything is accessible. I've already been looking at investment properties in Florida. I sat in the back seat, staring out the window, my hands folded in my lap. They thought I heard nothing, understood nothing. But I heard everything, and my phone recorded it all. 3 days later, Catherine called me during one of my library visits. Dr. Morrison filed his report, she said. It recommends guardianship based on severe cognitive impairment. But Dr. Sarah Chen, the neurologist I had observing, has prepared her own evaluation. She assessed you independently. Do you remember her? She was the woman who asked you directions to the restroom? I smiled. The doctor with the red scarf. I gave her turn-by-turn directions and recommended she try the coffee shop on the second floor. Exactly. Her evaluation states that you show no signs of cognitive impairment. In fact, she noted your recall was exceptional for your age. Combined with the voice recordings, the financial forensics, and the email chain I recovered between Marcus and Dr. Morrison's office. We have everything we need. What happens now? Now we set the trap. Marcus will file for guardianship next week. We'll let him. We'll wait until the court hearing. Then we'll present everything. The judge will not be pleased. And the criminal charges? The prosecutor has reviewed the evidence. Once the fraud becomes clear in court, they'll arrest Marcus and Victoria on the spot. Ruth, I need you to be prepared for this. Your son will go to prison." My hand tightened on the phone. This was the moment I'd been building toward, but the reality of it hit me like a wave. My son. My only child. He made his choice, Catherine. He chose greed over his own mother. I know. But knowing it and living it are different things. Are you sure? I thought about the last 6 months, the careful performance, the recordings of them laughing about my supposed deterioration, the plans they made to lock me away and steal everything Daniel and I had built. The way Marcus's eyes had shone with excitement when Dr. Morrison recommended guardianship. I'm sure. The court hearing was scheduled for November 15th, 23 days away. Catherine advised me to continue the charade. Don't give them any reason to suspect. Let them think they've won. Overconfidence breeds mistakes. So I shuffled. I forgot. I stared blankly. And they got comfortable. 1 week before the hearing, I overheard them discussing their plans in detail. They thought I was asleep upstairs. My phone, hidden in the living room bookshelf, caught every word. "Once the judge signs off, we need to move fast," Victoria said. "Get her moved to Green Meadows within days. Start clearing out the house immediately. I've already contacted an estate sale company." "What about her things?" Marcus asked. "Her photos, Dad's books, her teaching awards? Storage, I guess. Or donate them." "Marcus, she won't remember any of it." "Why does it matter?" Sometimes I feel like we're what? Taking care of the future? Being smart? Your mother had a good life. She had a career, a husband, a son. Now it's your turn. Our turn. She'd want you to be taken care of. I know. You're right. Of course I'm right. This house alone will set us up for years. And her retirement accounts, the life insurance payout she got from your father, it's all sitting there. Once you're guardian, it's essentially ours. We can finally live the life we deserve. The life we deserve, Marcus repeated. That phrase echoed in my mind. The life they deserved, built on lies and theft from his own mother. 2 days before the hearing, I had one final meeting with Catherine. "Here's what will happen," she explained. "Marcus's attorney will present Dr. Morrison's evaluation. They'll argue that you need a guardian to protect you. Dr. Morrison may even testify. Let them present their full case. Don't react. Stay in character. And then I stand up. I present Dr. Chen's evaluation. I play the voice recordings. I show the financial records, and I watch their world collapse. Will I have to testify? Oh, Ruth, you'll do more than testify. You'll walk to that stand with perfect posture, perfect clarity, and you'll tell that judge exactly what your son and his wife tried to do to you. And then the prosecutor will take over. I'm ready. I know you are. November 15th arrived cold and gray. I dressed carefully, not the shuffling, confused woman I'd been playing. I wore a navy suit, pearls Daniel had given me for our 30th anniversary, and heels. I styled my hair. I put on makeup. When I walked out of my bedroom, Marcus and Victoria were waiting in the living room. They stared. "Mom?" Marcus said. "What are you wearing?" "A suit, dear. I have a court appearance today. I thought I should look presentable. But we were going to help you get ready. You've been having trouble with what, Marcus?" I looked directly at him. Let him see my eyes. Sharp, clear, aware. His face paled. Have you been taking my medications?" "Yes." "Eating well?" "Yes." "Confused?" "No. Not for a single moment in the last 6 months." Victoria stood up. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I've been recording every conversation. I know about the money you've stolen. I know about Dr. Morrison. I know about your plans for Green Meadows and the house sale and the investment properties in Florida. I know everything." Marcus sank back onto the couch. "Mom, I can explain." "Save it for the judge." We rode to the courthouse in silence. The tension was suffocating. Victoria kept whispering to Marcus, but he sat frozen, staring straight ahead. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Patricia Henderson presided, a woman in her late 50s with steel gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd heard every lie ever told. Catherine sat beside me at the defendant's table. Marcus and Victoria sat with their attorney, Harold Beckman, a man in an expensive suit who probably specialized in quick guardianship cases. "This is a petition for cognitive guardianship," Judge Henderson began. "Mr. Beckman, present your case." Beckman stood. "Your Honor, Mrs. Ruth Calloway is 68 years old and suffering from severe cognitive decline. As evidenced by Dr. Morrison's evaluation, she is no longer capable of managing her own affairs. Her son, Marcus Calloway, is petitioning for guardianship to ensure his mother's safety and well-being." He called Dr. Morrison to testify. The doctor took the stand, described his evaluation, detailed my supposed impairments. "In my professional opinion, Mrs. Calloway requires 24-hour care and is not competent to make medical or financial decisions." "Thank you, doctor," Beckman said. He looked confident. This was routine for him. Judge Henderson turned to Catherine. "Miss Joe, does your client wish to respond?" Catherine stood. "Yes, Your Honor," quite emphatically. She approached the bench with a thick folder. "Your Honor, I'd like to present an independent evaluation conducted by Dr. Sarah Chen, a board-certified neurologist with 30 years of experience. Dr. Chen assessed Mrs. Calloway on the same day as Dr. Morrison's evaluation." She handed the file to the judge. Dr. Chen's evaluation concludes that Mrs. Calloway shows no signs of cognitive impairment. In fact, Dr. Chen notes that Mrs. Calloway's memory, reasoning, and executive function are all within normal range, actually above average for her age. Beckman jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. This is highly irregular. We weren't notified of any independent evaluation. Mr. Beckman, your client allegedly has severe dementia. If she was capable of arranging her own evaluation, that rather undermines your case, doesn't it?" Judge Henderson's tone was dry. "Continue, Miss Joe." "Thank you, Your Honor. I'd also like to present evidence that this guardianship petition is not motivated by concern for Mrs. Calloway's welfare, but rather by financial gain." Catherine played the first recording. Victoria's voice filled the courtroom. "Once she's declared incompetent, you'll have full power of attorney. Then we can sell the house and move her to Green Meadows." Marcus's response: "She won't like it." Victoria: "She won't remember to not like it." Their laughter. The courtroom went silent. Judge Henderson's expression hardened. Catherine played another recording, Marcus discussing Dr. Morrison's donation. Another of Victoria pricing estate sale companies. Another of them celebrating their upcoming windfall. Then Catherine presented the financial records. Over the past 5 months, Marcus Calloway has transferred $312,000 from his mother's accounts to his own. Mrs. Calloway has documentation of every transfer. Finally, Catherine called me to testify. I walked to the stand, straight-backed, clear-eyed. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Then I looked directly at Judge Henderson. "Your Honor, I am not confused. I am not impaired. For the past 6 months, I have been pretending to have dementia because I needed to see how far my son and his wife would go. I needed evidence of their intent." "Mrs. Calloway, you deceived your own son?" the judge asked. "I did, because 6 months ago, I began noticing money disappearing from my accounts. I noticed my son and daughter-in-law making plans for my house. I noticed them building a narrative that I was losing my mind, so I gave them what they wanted to see, and I documented everything. Why go to such lengths? Because, Your Honor, I needed the truth. I needed to know if my son could really do this to his own mother, if he could really lock me away, steal my money, and erase my life. And now I know. He could, he would, he was going to. I pulled out my own copy of the recordings, the timeline, the photographs. I have 147 days of documentation, voice recordings, financial records, text messages, emails. My son paid Dr. Morrison to declare me incompetent. He was planning to sell my house within a month of getting guardianship. He and his wife were already spending money they hadn't stolen yet. Judge Henderson looked at Marcus. "Mr. Calloway, do you have anything to say?" Marcus stood. His face was ashen. I was trying to help." Mom seemed confused. "We were worried." "You were worried?" I interrupted. "You were worried about how to spend my money fast enough. You were worried about whether the house would sell for $2.2 million or more. You were not worried about me. That's not fair, Mom. I'm your son. I love you. If this is love, Marcus, then I'm grateful I only have one child." The judge held up her hand. "I've heard enough. This petition for guardianship is denied. Furthermore, Mr. Calloway, I'm referring this case to the prosecutor's office for investigation of financial elder abuse and attempted fraud." 2 police officers entered the courtroom. I hadn't realized Catherine had arranged for them to be present. "Marcus Calloway and Victoria Calloway, you're under arrest for financial exploitation of the elderly and conspiracy to commit fraud," Victoria screamed. Marcus just stood there, stunned, as the officers handcuffed him. He looked at me as they led him away. I wanted to see remorse, shame, something human, but all I saw was anger that he'd been caught. The courtroom cleared. Catherine put her hand on my shoulder. "Ruth, you did it. You're free." "I don't feel free," I said quietly. "I feel like I just lost my son." "You lost him 6 months ago. Today you just stopped pretending you hadn't." The legal process took months. Marcus and Victoria both faced multiple felony charges. The prosecutor was aggressive. This was a clear-cut case, and elder abuse was something the state took seriously. They offered a plea deal: restitution of all stolen funds, 5 years probation, and a restraining order preventing contact with me. The alternative was a trial that could result in prison time. They took the deal. Marcus returned every penny. The court also ordered him to pay my legal fees and damages. Victoria's parents had to remortgage their house to cover their share. I never spoke to either of them again. The house felt different after everything ended. Quieter, sometimes too quiet. I'd protected my home, my money, my independence, but the cost was my only child. Some nights I questioned whether it was worth it. Whether I should have just let them take what they wanted, preserved the relationship even if it was built on lies. Then I'd remember Victoria's laugh. She won't remember to not like it. The casual cruelty of erasing a person who was still alive, and I knew I'd made the right choice. I stayed in my house. I still volunteer at the library. I travel more now, places Daniel and I always talked about but never visited. Italy, Alaska, Scotland. I use my money for things that bring me joy, not to fund my son's greed. Catherine became a friend. Real friend, not just an attorney. We have coffee every few weeks. She tells me about her other cases, and I tell her about my travels. "You're a legend, you know," she said once. "I've referred 3 other clients to your story, older people who thought they were powerless. You showed them they're not." I'm not a legend. I'm just a woman who got angry enough to fight back. That's what makes you legendary. I think about Marcus sometimes. Wonder if he understands what he lost. Wonder if Victoria still has those designer handbags, or if they sold them to pay their legal bills. Mostly, I wonder if there was a moment where I could have changed things, raised him differently, taught him better values. But I know that's false guilt. I raised him right. I taught him honesty, compassion, responsibility. He chose to forget those lessons. That's on him, not me. Some of my former students reached out when they heard what happened. The story made local news. Retired teacher outwits son's elder abuse scheme. One of my students from 20 years ago wrote me a letter. "Mrs. Calloway, you taught me that mathematics is about seeing patterns and solving problems. You just solved the biggest problem of your life. I'm proud to have been your student." That letter made me cry. Good tears, though. The first good tears in a long time. Did I regret the deception? The 6 months of pretending? Sometimes it felt dishonest, even if it was necessary. But then I remember, they were deceiving me, planning to lock me away, erase my identity, steal everything I'd worked for. My deception was defensive. Theirs was predatory. There's a difference. If there's a lesson in all this, it's that being old doesn't mean being powerless. Being kind doesn't mean being stupid. And sometimes, the best weapon isn't strength or money or connections. Sometimes it's patience, observation, and a really good voice recorder. I keep the timeline and recordings in a safety deposit box now. Not because I need them, the legal case is closed, but because they're proof. Proof that I saw what was happening. Proof that I didn't imagine it. Proof that I was strong enough to save myself. My neighbor Alice, the one I pretended not to recognize, brings me soup sometimes. She knows the whole story. The whole neighborhood does. You're tougher than you look, Ruth, she said last week. I taught high school for 4 decades, Alice. You develop a thick skin, but I'm not as tough as I seem. Some mornings I wake up and forget, just for a moment, that Marcus won't be calling, won't be visiting, that I'm truly alone now. Then I remember why, and the sadness settles back in like an old coat. I tell people I'm at peace with my decision. Most days, that's true. I protected myself. I refused to be a victim. I used my mind, the thing they tried to take from me, to defeat them. But some nights, I sit in Daniel's chair and wish things had been different. Wish Marcus had been the son I raised him to be. Wish greed hadn't poisoned what should have been a loving relationship in my final years. I'm 68 years old. I'm healthy. I have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my life. I have friends, hobbies, purpose. By any objective measure, I won. So why does winning sometimes feel so much like losing? Maybe because I didn't just lose a criminal who tried to exploit me. I lost my son, the baby I nursed, the child I taught to ride a bike, the young man I watched graduate college. He's still out there somewhere, but he's not mine anymore. Maybe he never was. People ask if I'd do it again, knowing everything I know now. Would I still spend 6 months pretending to lose my mind? Would I still build the case, set the trap, destroy my own son's life to save my own? Every time, I say yes. Because the alternative was letting him destroy mine. And I didn't survive 68 years, 4 decades of teaching teenagers, the death of my husband, and the loneliness of widowhood just to be erased by my own child's greed. I am Ruth Calloway. I am not a victim. I am not confused. I am not weak. And I am still here.